The cameras caught something that no one expected, and the internet has not stopped buzzing ever since. What once looked like an unbreakable friendship has started to crack wide open. And this wasn't just gossip, it was the kind of revelation that shakes an entire circle to its core. When Yandy sat across from Spice, fire in her eyes, it wasn't just another reality TV moment. It was years of bottled-up emotions spilling out in one explosive sit-down. For fans who had followed them for seasons, watching this unfold felt like a storm building in slow motion, and when it hit hard. Spice leaned back in her chair, stunned. Her wide eyes said it all. She could barely believe the words coming out of Yandy's mouth. This wasn't shade. This wasn't whispers. This wasn't whispers. Was betrayal laid bare, in front of cameras, in front of the world. A trust that had once seemed unshakable was now bleeding in public view. The air in the room grew heavy. Yandy's voice cracked slightly, not from weakness, but from the sheer weight of everything she had carried in silence. She spoke of private tears, late-night phone calls, and moments of vulnerability she thought were protected by sisterhood. She revealed that she had once poured her heart out when her marriage was rocky, when she felt the world crumbling behind the scenes. She had trusted Rasheeda, or as some fans were already calling her online, Rita, with those secrets, and yet, those same secrets had been twisted into rumors, stripped of their meaning, and served up on podcasts and blogs for the whole world to consume. Spice, usually sharp with her words, sat frozen. She knew what it felt like to confide in a friend during dark times, only to see that trust questioned in the harsh light of fame. As Yandy laid bare her pain, Spice's own heart sank. She could hardly look at her, wishing the cameras would cut, wishing this wasn't happening right now. But reality doesn't pause for anyone. And this storm wasn't going to be hidden anymore. With tears threatening to fall, Yandy shook her head. Her voice carried the burn of anger and the deeper sting of disappointment. I never sat on a podcast and dragged her, she said, her voice shaking but firm. Never, and if I ever spoke about her, it was with respect. But she didn't do the same for me. That was the kind of line that left the room still. It wasn't just fury, it was heartbreak. And that heartbreak made it all the more cutting. Spice shifted uncomfortably in her chair, recognizing that this was bigger than cameras. This was sisterhood breaking in real time. Behind the scenes, the ripple effects spread quickly. Whispers backstage became buzzing conversations. Some fans claimed they saw Rasheeda leave Spice's concert early, escorted out before the tension could spill onto the stage. Others swore that Kirk himself demanded she leave before things got ugly. Either way, by the time the night ended, social media was already dissecting every second of Yandy's words and every single expression on Spice's face. The fandom split into two camps almost instantly. Some praised Rasheeda for keeping it real and speaking her mind. Others slammed her for breaking the friendship code, accusing her of betraying a bond that once looked solid. Hashtags rose. Fan pages reposted old pictures of Yandy and Rasheeda, laughing together, contrasting them with clips of their bitter sit-down. The betrayal wasn't just televised, it was trending, and yet. When Spice finally tried to speak, her words came out cautious, almost pleading. Maybe this is just a misunderstanding, she said, but her hesitation was visible. Yandy wasn't having it, folding her arms, her voice cut sharper. When you go on podcasts, when you give interviews, when you drop hints about somebody's husband, that's not a misunderstanding, Spice. That's a choice. The words fell heavy, undeniable. They weren't whispers anymore. They were declarations. Outside that room, Rasheeda was fuming. People close to her said she insisted Yandy was exaggerating, painting her as a villain unfairly. But somewhere, deep down, she felt a flicker of guilt. Maybe she had gone too far. Maybe the shade she threw crossed into betrayal. Still, her pride wouldn't let her admit it, not yet. Blogs exploded. Twitter lit up. Fans wrote comments like, "This is heartbreaking." They were supposed to be sisters. Now they're strangers throwing knives. Others weren't as sympathetic. Rasheeda knew better. She broke girl code, period. For Yandy, silence had been a mistake. She admitted she had kept quiet too long, hoping things would heal, but instead it only made the wound fester. With a humorless laugh, she told Spice, "She thought I was just gonna sit back and take it, but no, not anymore. I'm done protecting people who don't protect me." The cast could feel the aftershocks for days. Every meeting carried tension. Every side eye felt loaded. Some wondered if Rasheeda would keep dodging until the pressure exploded. Others whispered that a direct showdown was inevitable. Even Kirk, usually quick to defend, downplayed it as a miscommunication. But he knew better. This wasn't just careless words, it was pride, betrayal, and trust colliding in the harsh light of fame. Things got even messier when Yandy dropped another bomb. She hinted that Rasheeda was closer to Jasmine than anyone realized. That name alone made Spice nearly choke. Her eyes widened, her body stiffened. "No way," she said at first. But Yandy didn't flinch. She urged her to connect the dots, to look at the pictures, the trips, the posts. The suggestion shook the room. Old photos resurfaced online, screenshots dissected, vacation posts analyzed frame by frame. Fans speculated, had Rasheeda been keeping a hidden alliance all along? Was she playing both sides while smiling for the cameras? The betrayal now had layers, and each layer made the story hotter. Spice replayed the night in her head, Yandy's rage, the Jasmine allegation, the tears, the silence. She couldn't decide if the truth was more shocking or more painful. But one thing was clear, the tension wasn't going away. It was growing, pulsing, spreading by morning. Blogs were louder than ever. Fan pages pieced together theories. Trended. Clips went viral. And suddenly, it wasn't just about friendship anymore. It was about loyalty, betrayal, truth, and the tangled web of relationships binding all of them together. Yandy, scrolling through comments, saw the split reaction. Some praised her bravery. Others called her messy. But she didn't care. She told a close friend, "I know what I shared with her. I know the promises we made. And I know she broke them. They can say what they want." Meanwhile, Rasheeda kept her public face calm. She smiled online, cracked jokes, posted like nothing was wrong, but in private, she was furious. "She's trying to make me look fake. After everything I've done for her. No. She won't have the last word," she muttered, pacing her living room. Days later, the cast reunited at another event. Music and laughter filled the space, but everyone felt the tension underneath. Spice walked in first, commanding attention with her usual flair. Across the room sat Yandy, stiff in her chair, eyes scanning like a fighter waiting for the bell. Moments later, Rasheeda entered with Kirk at her side, chin high, face unreadable. The room shifted instantly. It was Yandy who made the first move. She stood, heels clicking like warning shots, and crossed the room. Silence fell, all eyes locked in. "So what are we doing now?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp. "After everything I shared with you, you're really gonna go on platforms and talk about my husband and me?" Rasheeda narrowed her eyes. "Don't act like I lied. If what I said struck a nerve, maybe you should ask yourself why." Gasps echoed. Spice covered her mouth, torn between stepping in or staying out. Yandy leaned closer, voice trembling with emotion. "You know what you did. You know what I told you when I was weak. And you used it as content. A friend doesn't do that." Rasheeda fired back instantly. "And what about when you left me hanging? What about when you didn't pick up the phone? Don't act like you're perfect, Yandy." The room froze. Even Kirk, always loud in his wife's defense, stayed silent. The tension was too sharp to slice through, and then, like a spark on dry wood, Yandy shouted the name again. "Jasmine. Jasmine." The room erupted. Yandy's voice rose, accusing. "Why don't you tell everyone about your little trips? You think nobody sees the pictures? You're closer to her now than you ever were to me." Rasheeda froze, eyes darting, lips trembling. Whispers flew across the room. Spice gasped audibly. Fans outside leaked blurry clips within hours. Twitter blew up. "Did y'all see Yandy drag Rasheeda over Jasmine?" Spice's face was everything, and just like that, the story wasn't just on TV, it was everywhere. The moment Jasmine's name left Yandy's lips, the energy in the room shifted from tense to explosive. It was as if everyone had been waiting for the match to drop, and now the fire was unstoppable. Whispers turned into gasps, gasps into shouts, and within seconds, the confrontation had spiraled into chaos. Rasheeda's face tightened, her jaw locked as though every muscle in her body was working to hold back a scream. She spat out words, sharp enough to cut. "Don't twist my friendships into something dirty. You don't know everything, Yandy, and you don't get to dictate who I stand beside." But her eyes betrayed her, flashing with a mix of anger and guilt that made the room lean in even closer. Spice pressed her hand over her mouth, her eyes darting between the women like a referee too scared to blow the whistle. She whispered to herself, "This is going too far." But the cameras were rolling, and there was no stopping it now. Yandy stepped closer, her voice shaking but stronger than ever. "You can try to spin it however you want, but everybody sees the truth now. You smiled in my face while you ran to her. You took the things I confided in you and turned them into gossip. That's not sisterhood. That's betrayal. The room erupted again. Cast members who had been sitting quietly now murmured, exchanging side eyes. A couple of them slipped their phones under the table, recording. Knowing the clip would spread online before production even finished editing, and it did. Within an hour, blurry videos leaked on social media. Twitter timelines flooded with posts. Did y'all just see Yandy drag Rasheeda over Jasmine? Another fan posted, "This ain't shade. This is war." Spice looked like she wanted to disappear. The hashtags were immediate. Hashtag YandyYVs RASHEED, hashtag Jasmine link, hash friendship over. By the next morning, the fight wasn't just a private feud anymore, it was public property. Memes of Spice's shocked expression circled everywhere. Clips of Kirk looking like he'd swallowed his tongue went viral. Even casual fans who hadn't watched the show in years tuned back in, saying, "This is the mess I live for." But behind the memes, the damage was real. In private, Rasheeda was livid. She stormed around her house, shouting to Kirk, "She's trying to make me look like the villain, after everything I've done for her. Nah, I won't let her drag me down." Kirk tried to calm her down, but even his tone betrayed worry. He knew this wasn't something they could brush under the rug. Meanwhile, Yandy sat in silence, scrolling through comments. Some praised her. Finally, she spoke up. "That's bravery." Others slammed her. "She messy for blasting Rasheeda on camera. That's private stuff." But Yandy didn't care. Her words replayed in her head. "I'm done protecting people who don't protect me." Spice tried to reach both sides, hoping to stop the storm before it grew bigger. But her efforts only exposed how deep the wounds ran. When she spoke to Yandy, the woman's voice cracked with exhaustion. "I tried to keep it quiet, Spice, but how long can you bite your tongue while somebody throws stones at you?" When Spice later called Rasheeda, the tone was different, cold-clipped, defensive. "She's trying to make me the bad guy," Rasheeda snapped. "I didn't betray her. I just refused to play weak. If she wants a war, she'll get one." The divide was clear. There would be no reconciliation, not now. The next time the cast gathered, the air was thick enough to choke on. Even background chatter was quieter, like everyone was bracing for another explosion. Yandy sat with her arms crossed, shoulders stiff, her eyes locked on the door. When Rasheeda walked in with Kirk by her side, the entire energy shifted. Conversations slowed. Every head turned. The unspoken question filled the room. Will tonight be the night it all blows up again? Yandy didn't wait. She stood, heels clicking like a countdown, and walked straight toward Rasheeda. The room froze. "You know exactly what you did," she said, her voice low but lethal. "And if you want to keep playing innocent, do it somewhere else. Because I'm not scared of you, and I'm not scared of the truth." Rasheeda's reply was just as sharp. "The truth. Girl, you wouldn't know the truth if it slapped you. Don't act like you didn't leave me hanging when I needed you. Don't act like you perfect." The argument grew louder, voices overlapping, and then, once again, Jasmine's name cut through the noise like a blade. "Tell them about your trips. Tell them about the pictures. You think people don't see you with her?" Yandy's voice rose above the din, echoing through the space. Rasheeda froze, her eyes flashing panic for just a second before hardening again. "Don't twist my life into your storyline," she barked, but the damage was done. The room had heard enough. Spice begged them to stop, but her words were drowned out. Cast members leaned in closer. Producers whispered behind cameras. This wasn't just content anymore, it was carnage. And in the middle of it all, Kirk finally snapped. He slammed his hand on the table, his voice low but cutting. "You dragged my son's name. You left scars that won't heal. Do you even know what you've done?" Yandy's face fell, her voice trembling. "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted my pain turned into gossip? I never asked for this mess." For the first time, her voice cracked into pure vulnerability, but there was no sympathy from Kirk. His eyes narrowed, his tone venomous. "You ruined everything. Not just for her, for all of us." The words hit Yandy like a punch. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her eyes filled, but she refused to let the tears fall in front of them. Mendices, sitting silently until now, reached under the table and squeezed her hand. It was a quiet gesture, but the cameras caught it, zooming in. For the world watching, it was another layer of drama to devour. For Yandy, it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. Then, in a moment that silenced the entire room, Rasheeda stood, her voice cracked, her eyes glistening, but her words were steady. This isn't just TV. This is our families. Our children, our lives. And once you put it out there, it never goes away. The hush that followed was heavier than any scream. Even the producers looked shaken, exchanging glances as though they'd crossed into territory that couldn't be undone. When the cameras finally cut, the tension didn't. Kirk stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Rasheeda followed, her heels clicking fast. Left behind, Yandy buried her face in her hands, her body trembling. Mendices rubbed her back gently, whispering words only she could hear. Around them, the crew scribbled frantic notes, some shaking their heads, some staring at the floor. Everyone knew, this wasn't just another episode. This was the kind of moment that rewrites everything: friendships, reputations, careers. As the night ended, Yandy lifted her head, eyes red but voice steady. They'll never see me for who I really am. They only see what they want. Her words hung heavy, not just for the people in the room, but for everyone who would watch later, dissecting, judging, tearing apart her truth. And outside, the storm had only just begun. Paparazzi cameras flashed as cars pulled away. Fans screamed questions, and blogs refreshed by the second. The fight was no longer theirs, it belonged to the world now, because in this game, pain isn't private. Betrayal doesn't fade, and once the cameras capture it, there's no going back.